Welcome to another edition of the Pilot's Advisor podcast. And every once in a while we have to do a non-professional podcast. And when I want to do that, I bring in my good friend Lee Hyder from from Sandusky, Ohio. He hangs out on the lake house up there by Cedar Point. If any of you guys have ever been to Northern Ohio, it's one of the best amusement parks I've ever been to. I went there as a kid and it was amazing. What do you think about Cedar Point, Lee?
Well, first of all, I've got to correct you. It's not an amusement park. An amusement park is like cute little merry-go-rounds and bumper cars. This is known as the #1 roller coaster park in the world. So if you are a roller coaster enthusiast, this is the place you need to be. And as you can tell by my full Hawaiian kind of tropical shirt, that's kind of the vibe we get here in Sandusky on Lake Erie.
Only 3 months out of the year when it's actually warm in Ohio. Otherwise, you need to have 3 jackets and mittens, hats, you name it.
But and a very well operating snowblower for sure.
Well, Lee, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it. You're always a bundle of fun. We get to talk about stuff that grinds our gears as advisors. I was telling you the other day how much easier this job is when the market's actually cooperating. So right now, the market's doing really well. We just finished up Memorial Day weekend, which I hope you had a wonderful weekend with friends. What'd you do this weekend, Lee?
Living on the beach, we spent one of the days in a hammock on a chair with the barbecue going in the background. One of the other days, we took out the jet skis and the boat and just kind of had a all-around relaxing, fun family vacation. Although it's not really a vacation, it's kind of our lifestyle out here on the beach.
Well, I'm pretty jealous. We actually had this house near us was having a wedding reception, and they hired a live band. And so they let us know that, hey, we're having a live band at 7:30 on Friday night. And so what we did is we all kind of set up shop out there and listened to the live band.
So basically you crashed the wedding just sitting in your lawn chairs 2 or 3 houses away, huh?
Exactly. But we got an informal invite that's what was going on. So it worked out well. It was a good time. The band was great. We enjoyed it. And of course, I feel like a lot of people don't understand what Memorial Day is really about, because I get a lot of people that will text me and say, hey, thank you for your service. Hey, you and Carrie, thank you for what you've done for our country. And, that's what Veterans Day is about. Memorial Day is about those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, those that did whatever that, they gave the ultimate sacrifice so that you and I can sit around here and do a podcast and say whatever we want to say. Or actually hang out on the beach and take jet skis out and have boats and stuff like that we enjoy as Americans.
Yeah, no. Sadly enough, it's not only Memorial Day and Veterans Day, but I guess all of our holidays have become so commercialized. We've really forgot what's behind the holiday. And you're right. I mean, people just don't stop and think. They don't stop and show their appreciation, because appreciation is due not only to people like you for Veterans Day, but for, like you said, the countless families that have been affected by one of their loved ones actually giving their life so that we can have the wonderful, fun holidays and roller coaster weekends and all of those things. So absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, too many people just look at it as hey, that's a 3-day weekend, or hey, that's a 4-day weekend. And hey, we're going to barbecue and have fun, versus truly taking a moment to realize the sacrifices that we've made, that those before us have made so that we can live in this great country. Because as much as I hate things right now, and as much as I can't stand the politics right now, we still do live in the greatest country in the world. And you just got to travel around a little bit to realize that. So anyway, enough about that. We don't want to be somber. We want to, talk about good things and be positive. But actually, I want to complain about something else. You ready for me to complain about something else?
I'm always ready for one of your complaints.
So I send out retirement toolkits to, airline pilot prospects, and I send them a couple of my books and, some other stuff in this packet that I send out in the retirement toolkit. Mm-hmm. So I ordered 250 of these of one of the books. Okay. 250 of them. Mm-hmm. And in the toolkit, I put 2 different books in there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I just found out, because I never checked the contents of these books, I just order more from Amazon and assume that, they haven't just changed what they're doing. Well, come to find out that of those 250 that I ordered, it was the exact same thing in both books, even though they had different covers. So they screwed up the printing that bad. And, of course, I started sending these out, and I finally had somebody open them up and go, hey, this is the same book, even though it has a different color. So I called Amazon. And wouldn't you believe it? Because it was over 30 days. And of course, I get these and it takes a while to send them out. I don't check the books anymore.
Right, right.
Because it's over 30 days. They basically told me, tough. We can't do anything about it.
Wow. Is there nobody on your end that kind of does? I mean, was the mistake on Amazon, or is there a
No, it's
possibility that it was
100% Amazon where I order them from. I went back and looked to see, hey, was it screwed up online?
Mhm.
Where I have my book published, because I've been doing this for a while,
Right.
and no, it's perfectly fine there. Somehow, some way, they just screwed it up, and they're not going to do anything about it
You know,
because
you
it's
know,
over 30 days.
I wish you would have told me this before, because when Jeff and his family was at the festivities on our beach, I probably could have had Jeff, reach out to the distribution center and fix that for you. So just, be warned in the future that if you ever have any problems with Amazon, just reach out to me and I'll take care of that for you.
Yeah, and for those that aren't picking up, at least putting down, what is Jeff's last name that was hanging out with you?
I think that's Bezos, right? Something
Oh,
like
okay, yeah. Well,
that.
talk to Jeff for me because I'm
Yeah.
really not happy with them right now. They told me to pound sand.
You know what? I wasn't happy with him either. That big boat he brought really blocked our view from the sunset. So I mean, it was just just didn't work out as well as we would have hoped.
For our listeners, if you have not met Mr. Hyder before, he's always, always making stuff up like this. Just running with the. He agreed yesterday to get on another podcast with me, and then all morning long he kept talking about August 17th to make sure that was the date that we were doing the podcast. Every time I sent him another text or a Zoom invite, he said, "Oh, this is for next year, right? Or this is for tomorrow. What day are we doing this?" Just messing with me because that's what Lee does.
Well, I just gotta be sure that you understand. I'm a very, very busy man, and you're very fortunate to have me on this podcast today.
Well, that's why I pay big money to have you on the podcast, Lee.
Absolutely, and I do appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Still waiting on that first check, right?
I'm waiting on that first check, and I'm going to frame it. I'm not even going to cash it because we both know what would happen if I tried.
Well, there was a lot of zeros on that check that I wrote you. I don't know why you haven't gotten it yet, but yeah, you might not want to cash it.
There you go. Absolutely. So what
So,
do you want to talk about on a serious note today? If we're
oh
going to be
gosh,
serious,
I sometimes I just don't like being serious. But Lee, what do you think's going on with the market right now? What's Lee Hyder's overall impression of what's going on with the market today?
you know, you know, that's really a powerful question, and I mean that because the first question that anybody has to ask themselves when you say, "What do you think is going on with the market?" How do you define the market? What is the market? And I think a lot of people make very dangerous assumptions, that the market is simply the S&P, or the market is some of the alphabet companies. And, it's a worldwide market. So, first of all, I think the market's doing great. And I think you need to be in the market. And if any of your, listeners are not in the market today, I think they need to reach out to you and re-examine why they're sitting on the sidelines, because there are incredible opportunities to be had. And I just don't want anybody to miss out on those.
Well, I firmly believe that, owning equities all around the world is the biggest wealth creation tool known to mankind. Um, However, I agree with you. Most individuals don't understand the market at all. They have a very myopic view of what the market is, just what they see on TV, just the S&P 500, just US large cap stocks, when there's so much more out there. And you want to diversify your portfolio and lower your risk by owning companies all around the world, owning small, owning value. But yeah, most investors don't understand that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Lee. And another thing that's a little bit scary about the S&P lately, it's finally starting to spread out a little bit more, but for the longest time, it's been totally held up by only a few companies. I mean, I would say for the last 3 to 4 years, the S&P has been held up by only a few companies.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, all the alphabet companies that everybody knows of have really been driving the markets for a while. But again, that's why you need to be diversified. And sadly, most people don't really know how to measure diversification. They look on page one of their statement they get from whoever their custodian is, and they see those pretty slices of pies represented by different colors. And they really think they're diversified. And the truth is, when you and I maybe do an analysis of a portfolio, we don't nearly find the diversification that they may think they have. We've got a lot of overlapping positions that are just simply dressed up in another holding position. So you really got to be diversified in the market. And again, as you say, the S&P is expanding, certainly, and we're getting broad range of growth across the board, more than just the alphabet companies. So, I mean, I look for, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I look for a interesting second half of the year. I think if I had to give anybody any predictions, and don't hold me to them, but I think we're going to experience volatility up and down. But I think at the end of the year, and that's how you measure it. Nobody should be measuring anything on a day-to-day basis. But I think at the end of the year, we're going to look back at 2024, and I think we're going to be very, very happy, if you're an equity investor.
100%. You can't be sitting on the sidelines. When the market moves fast, and if you're sitting on the sidelines trying to time the market, we've proven via numbers, just the facts, that people that do that end up hurting themselves. They'll be sitting on the sidelines at the wrong time and probably never catch up.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're an athlete, and you've been in many, many big games.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah, but I think you realize as an athlete that you don't win the game in the locker room. You may put together a strategy in the locker room, but you've got to be on the field to actually score the touchdown. And you got to be in the game. You got to be in the equity markets to be able to achieve market returns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I enjoy talking to Lee on occasion, where we really can talk about the market or talk about things we deal with in talking to clients. Because the other thing that I find that's really tough, and I do want to talk about the overlap that you brought up. I don't know how many times I analyze a portfolio where they have U.S. large cap stocks in an ETF, then they own the S&P 500 in a Schwab ETF, and then they got a Fidelity ETF that's the S&P 500 again, where it looks like you might have some diversification because you have 10 or 12 ETFs, but they're all doing the exact same thing. It's actually very inefficient.
And not only that, and I think that's kind of a problem for investors that are what I respectfully call do-it-yourselfers. They're doing a lot of research on their own, but it's very, very hard unless somebody has the kind of tools that you and I have that are very, very expensive, to really be able to break down into a portfolio to determine, what is the overlap from one mutual fund to another, from one ETF to another. And, you may think you're diversified, like I said, because you've got a very, very pretty pie chart on page 1, but how many of those slices actually own, so to call, the same ingredients, but just in a different wrapper?
Yeah, for sure. What about another thing that I think is always good to talk about? You talked about being in the market. Okay.
Sure.
Many times it's always a good time to buy, right? It's always a good time to buy. But of course, when the market has a 20% pullback, I tell investors all the time, this is a great time to buy in. Things are 20, 30% off. We make most of our money in a down market. We just don't realize it. But the emotional investor doesn't want anything to do with the market then. They wait till times like right now where we have all-time highs. It's on TV. Everybody's talking about the market, and they want to buy in now. And I find that the uneducated investor lets emotion drive so much of their decision-making, where when the market is at an all-time high, suddenly everybody has money to invest in the market.
And this may sound like maybe a self-serving statement, and I don't really want it to be, because I think Vanguard did a study, but this is the value that an advisor really brings to the table. It's the discipline. An advisor earns his money, when the market is going through volatility, not when the market is screaming at a 20 or 30% return. It's like a fireman. You drive past a firehouse and you see the guys playing basketball or washing their trucks, and you kind of say to yourself, man, what a great job they've got. But in essence, they're getting paid to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, run into the burning building when everybody's running out. And it really is that same kind of metaphor, in the market. A good advisor will help the people understand that when everybody's running for an exit, that is the best time to sweep in and pick up some great bargains and be able to achieve some of those returns you're hoping for in the equity market side.
Well, and that people talk about blood in the streets. When there's blood in the streets, that's when you make a lot of money, or you make those buys. I know you've probably heard that before. When there's blood in the streets of the market or on Wall Street.
Yeah,
have you ever heard of that one?
I think you told me that was your statement, that you coined that or something.
Did I just made that up? Yeah, I don't know. I just remember something like that. So
you trademark it or something along those lines.
You're not supposed to make me look bad on my own podcast, Lee. Come on.
I'm making you look good, man. You got the True Blue in the back. You got the jets. You got the helmets. I mean, you look like the real deal.
Yeah. What do you have any advice for our airline pilot listeners out there?
I guess
It's
probably
putting you on the spot here. Come on.
yeah, I would probably advise them to match the landings with the takeoffs, and everything ought to be good.
That's actually good advice. Shiny side up is always good advice.
Yeah, but that's pretty technical. I mean, you got to break that down for your your listeners here.
Well,
Shiny,
you're right. We do
shiny,
have some Marines, which I always have to talk a little bit slower for our Marine pilots.
shiny side up. I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking
Okay.
about that, I got to tell you, I was flying back from Lackland Air Force Base because my
Lackland Air
Lackland.
Force.
See, sorry about that. There you
Hmm.
go. And my stepson just graduated boot camp from the Air Force Academy, and when we came back, we actually sat on the
I'm going
runway
to have
for
to stop you again there, Lee. It's
United.
not the Air Force Academy. He graduated
I'm sorry.
basic training from
Basic
the Air
training.
Force at Lackland
See,
Air Force Base.
see, that's why I've got you on this podcast to keep me on the straight and
You
narrow.
just make stuff up. Go
I
ahead.
do. Speaking about making things up, and I'll talk about a competitor of yours, United Airlines, which I know is not a competitor of yours. But I sat on the runway for 3.5 hours only to hear the pilot come on board and say, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is I've just timed out, so we're going to have to go back to the gate. But the good news is we have another crew coming in that will be able to get you where you need to go to. But the caveat is they're coming in from Mexico, so we're going to have a little wait. So that was the first time I actually got stranded for 3.5 hours on the runway. So it was kind of interesting.
Well, and I've never been more miserable in my life than being in situations like that where you're stuck on an airplane and I don't really fit on them anyway. Where you're in some seat like this, three
Right.
and a half hours later, you haven't moved anywhere. I actually do remember you complaining on Facebook during that trip home because it took so long to get back to Cleveland.
Well, I don't think I was really complaining. I think I was just giving an update for all of my, friends and family. I just wanted to let them know
Yeah,
what was
because
going on.
everybody's wondering, yeah, how you got home.
Everybody's always worried about us. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Even right now, I've got a good friend in Italy that his first post is, "This is not for Lee Hyder."
I've been seeing that. This is
Yeah.
another advisor. He's traveling in Italy right now. And the
Yeah.
best part that I love, and I'm sorry, Newark, Newark, New Jersey is not the prettiest of towns. Many pilots have to fly through there. I try to avoid it like the plague.
Right.
But this particular advisor keeps posting that he's in Newark, New Jersey, and then he has these beautiful countryside views, ocean views from Italy. It's very obvious that it's not Newark, but
Yeah.
he's doing that to be a smart ass, another
Yeah.
smart ass. But
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
think that's pretty funny.
No, that is funny. We used to, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, we were sitting in Arkansas somewhere fishing, and we were actually in the lodge. And I think it was during the soccer tournament, the World Cup. And for like 3 days, we just kept basically posting because people don't realize, you can go to check in at Facebook and you can actually pick anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
So we were posting, we're at the World Cup in Tokyo. The next day, we're at the World Cup in Rome. And I mean, literally, people were just going, wow, how expensive is that to be flying around? So for all of
Thinking
your
that you were
listeners out
actually
there,
traveling all over.
yeah, for all of your listeners out there, if you want to play with your friends and family, next time you're posting something, just kind of check in from an exotic place you've never been before, and just look at your inbox start filling up.
Well, you recently posted something online that I took advantage of because I thought it was funny. And it was how you refinanced your home 20-year home mortgage into a student loan.
You like that, yeah,
I thought that was funny because it's
and
like,
now
yeah,
and now it's being forgiven. So I'm
yeah.
good,
So
and I want to and I
voila,
want to and I
voila.
want to and I want to thank everybody out there for their helping and getting my house paid off for me much quicker than the bank would have allowed.
That's some great financial advice. I thought it was wonderful. I decided to share it as well. We'll try not to talk about politics because we go down that path. That'll be upsetting, but I did think that was rather humorous and I wanted to enjoy that as well.
Well, I can't take total credit for that. I kind of stole that from somebody else, but I think they say if you post something the first time, you've stole it. If you post it the second time, then it's yours. So
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
I'll
So
repost it.
Lee, how many years have you been a financial advisor now?
It's really amazing when I just wonder how the years have kind of passed, but I've been doing this for almost 33 years now.
Wow.
Long time.
So in your 33 years, and if you were to look back or give advice to somebody in their 20s or 30s, and just how do you build long-term wealth? What are some of the secrets? Because we always talk about the rules to investing, and we're supposed to teach our clients to not make mistakes. But what do you think some of the biggest factors to build that long-term wealth, or what advice would you give to that young investor so that they could get to 50 or 60 or in retirement and be in a really, really good position where they didn't have to worry so much about their income going forward?
There's a couple things. Number one, investing is a habit. And you can't wait until you have what you think is enough money to invest. So one of the things I kind of do when I'm meeting with clients, and I'm even meeting maybe with some of their young children and people that really have not started and they feel bad. I say, one of the little games that I play with people, and I do this myself even to this day, is I never carry change in my pocket, and I never give a penny, nickel, dime, or quarter to a cashier. So if I'm standing next to a cashier and I bought something and it's $1.03, I'm going to give $2 to the cashier. Now I'm going to have all that change in my pocket. And when I come home every night, I always put away my nickels, dimes, quarters, and pennies. And you would be surprised, just that little stupid thing that you could teach your grandchildren, your children, that can be $700, $800, $1,000 in a year. Now, that's obviously not a lot of money for the kind of listeners we're talking to, but it is a great message for the listeners to help their grandchildren just start saving. Then I tell people, which is a fact, that if you're not investing, when you're 30, making $30,000, you're not going to invest when you're, 50, making $150,000. So investing is, number one, a habit. And I always tell people it can be painful. And it really should be painful because you get to choose your financial pain. You either kind of put maybe more money in the market, in investments, in your 401ks, your IRAs today, more money than maybe you think you can afford to do to eliminate the pain down the road as you retire, or you simply don't put money in today and you wake up down the road and then you have pain for the rest of your life because you can't retire. So investing is, number one, it's a choice. And number two, it's a habit. And number three, it's kind of like a charity, but you are the charity. You want to give until it hurts.
Attention aviators, when you've spent years in the cockpit managing the complexities of flight, isn't it time you navigated your retirement with the same precision? Introducing retirepilots.com. Right at your touchdown zone on our homepage, there's a beacon flashing, "Get my free toolkit." Click that and you'll be cleared for a direct route to Ryan's retirement toolkit, tailor-made for pilots like you. Inside, you'll find two of his important works, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early. Between these two books, you can decipher the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65 and discover the 7 lessons to help pilots land safely in retirement. But that's not all. This toolkit is packed with altitude-high value, including extras to get your retirement plans off the runway and light the afterburners on your 401k. Vector on over to retirepilots.com to grab your toolkit, and let's embark on this journey together.
See, and I've had a different relationship with investing. Pilots are really, really good at procrastinating. So I talk to a lot of my clients about forced discipline.
Sure.
And I don't care if it's $50 a month or $5,000 a month, but you got to set something where it's automatically coming out of your checking account and going into an investment vehicle, whether that is a retirement vehicle or just a taxable investment account. Mm-hmm. And don't ever shut that off. Only bump it up because it's paying yourself first. It's dollar cost averaging. And the biggest factor with investing is the time factor. That compounding interest over time is huge. I wish I would have been a better investor in my 20s. Because if I was a better investor in my 20s, I'd be in a totally different position today because of that time factor. And one of the other things I always say is, what's 10% of $100,000, Lee?
Let me see. That's 3,500, right? How's my math?
So when I think about that, and I'm only using 10% simply because it's easy math, but if I had $100,000 invested and I made 10% off that money, that would be $10,000 that I made that year for doing nothing. Just letting my money work for me.
Right.
So I think that sounds great, but what's 10% of $1 million?
It's a big number, my friend.
That's $100,000 in 1 year, and then it compounds. And so what I think about that is it's called the snowball effect. Okay. It takes a long time to get to $100,000 saved or invested. It takes a long time to get to $1 million. Okay. But the bigger the snowball you make, the earlier in your life, then 2 million comes really fast because of that compounding interest. So the earlier you build that snowball, by the time you get in your 50s and 60s, if you've done it right, you're in the power position at that point because of that compounding interest. That 10% of whatever portfolio you built is spitting out a lot of money every single year.
Absolutely. And like I say, give till it hurts.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 15%. But the bottom line is, yeah, it's got to be an automatic pilot. Just like maybe your utilities automatically come out of your checking account. You want that investment account to be funded automatically so you don't have to think about it.
And that's where you pay yourself first. You should be paying yourself before you even pay the utility bill. Now, obviously, I'm not saying don't pay the utility bill, but in order of importance for your financial future, paying yourself first would be the better way to go. So I don't know. When I start seeing that engine working and you see it happen over the years, it's pretty powerful. And I wish I could stress the importance of it. I have a few pilot clients. They're young Delta pilots. And it's really awesome because they're at a legacy airline already at like 28 years old. Okay. And normally, historically, you didn't get onto a big legacy airline until you were like late 30s, early 40s was what it used to be because you had to fly all these hours to get hired. Well, there's been such a hiring boom where these 28-year-olds are making really good money in their 20s and they're being very, very aggressive at putting this money away. Right. And I just know that they're going to live this amazing lifestyle because they're being aggressive early. And I wish everyone could see the power of that because the longer you wait, those investors that wait till they're in their late 40s, early 50s, and they go, oh crap, I need to start saving for retirement. The amount that they have to put away is so much, the pain is so much more at that point because the time factor is gone.
It speaks again, to the power of an advisor. So often I would meet people that, would come into my office, kind of right after maybe the 2008 crash and what have you, people that didn't have advisors and they were telling me that, they've stopped investing in the market because, 2008 and they were worried and what have you. So the real power of an investor, working with an advisor is number one, you set up a plan. You set up that automatic direct withdrawal from an account as a direct deposit into one of your investment accounts. And when the market starts going sideways, the discipline that you may not have as an investor due to the fear and anxiety and the emotional turmoil, a good financial advisor can help you sidestep that so you continue to be investing in your future.
Good news. I mean, that's a great message, Lee. I think it's valuable for us talking to each other back and forth, for our listeners out there to see a different mindset or some of the conversations we have with our clients on a day-to-day basis. With that being said, I want to ask you one more question before I let you guys let our listeners go. I always try to be mindful of their time and not have a podcast that goes on for an hour.
What about mindful of my time?
Well, I'm paying you for your time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
So what are some of the biggest issues you deal with unhappy investors, unhappy clients, or those that are watching the market too much, that are constantly calling you or the market goes up, the market goes down, and they're that person that's watching way too closely?
Well, the first thing I tell them is, whenever you make any investment into the market, I mean, it should be a long-term process. And a long-term process should not be driven by, nor necessarily evaluated on day-to-day movements of the market, nor week-to-week movements, or maybe even month-to-month movements. So I think for the investors out there, and some of the challenges we get when we start with brand new clients that have not been clients of our firm, is they kind of tell me how they monitored their investments in the past and what they did when the market moved. So we just try to get people to really understand that, you're investing for your future, and your future is down the road, and the philosophy that you put into effect today and the strategies you put into today should not be necessarily affected or altered just due to day-to-day movements in the market. So the bottom line is we try to get people, away from the TV screens, away from the newsletters, away from looking at their stock portfolio on a day-to-day basis, and, kind of enjoy their life and enjoy their family. The market will take care of itself.
I find that the investors that do that are watching Fox Business every single day, that are looking at their stock portfolios, that are very emotional with the day-to-day swings of the market, my experience has been those investors that put that much more time in and worrying about it tend to have a lot less money. And I think it's because of them making mistakes in the past. And just like you said, it needs to be long-term, unemotional, and disciplined. And I find that emotional investor has less money because they've made those emotional mistakes before. They've let emotions drive their actions versus staying in the market, knowing that we've engineered a portfolio for them that's going to handle the ups and downs of the market. Have you seen something similar when you look at your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I think we all fall prey to this to one degree or another. We are a comparative society. We look at somebody's car in the parking lot, we look at the house they live in, we look at the vacations they take, where their children go to school. And we look at our friends' portfolios. We look at what are the returns on TV? Hey, my returns are not as good as the ones on TV. Maybe I should sell this and maybe I should buy that. Or we always hear when there's turmoil, what about gold, or what about silver, or what about currencies? So I agree that the people that end up in trouble are, number one, the people that don't have a plan. If you have a plan, you're going to be okay. Now, a good plan is going to have a contingency. If there's a roadblock, I got a detour, I know where I'm going. But the people that just are so-called buying investments because, they think they are good, they're going down the Walmart aisles, so to speak, of what to put in their financial shopping cart, is not a way to build a long-term portfolio, nor a way to kind of find yourself emotionally satisfied with how you're doing. So I think people just ought to tune out. I mean, if they have trust, and it goes back to a fundamental thing. If you have trust in your advisor, if he or she knows exactly what you're trying to do, if you built a plan that you both understand, you're gonna revisit that plan. You're gonna make detours along the way, but you don't want to sabotage your financial future by making quick emotional decisions.
That's great, Lee. Thank you for sharing that. I got one other question that I just started thinking about.
And I have a question for you before we finish also.
Okay. Um, right now, people are talking about Bitcoin or NVIDIA, whatever it is, but I want to talk about Bitcoin specifically. Yeah, of course, I wish I bought into Bitcoin, 10 years ago or what have you. We didn't know that it'd still be here. I think it's here to stay finally, but at the same time, I still have trouble, number one, ever leveraging much of your investment portfolio in one entity. But at the same time with Bitcoin, I'm still there going, what do I own? I don't feel like I own anything. And I was wondering how you handle questions about Bitcoin, or what you think about the long-term prognosis of something like Bitcoin as an advisor.
The challenge that I have with Bitcoin, and maybe it goes against public sentiment, but public sentiment, I believe, is more emotional than academic, is there's nothing really behind Bitcoin. When you buy a stock, I mean, if you really examine and if you pull the curtain back, what are you really buying? If you look at a building, so to speak, a factory, I'm buying a brick in that particular building. I'm buying part of their trucks, part of their inventory, part of their intellectual property. And if by misfortune that company went out of business, there is a genuine breakup value. Assets could be sold and investors would be able to get some return on their equity. So when you're buying stocks, you're actually buying something that you can hold, something that has a tangible value, something that you can touch, you can feel. But when you buy Bitcoin, you're really buying nothing. You're buying the fact that you hope other people buy it, so it goes up in value, so that maybe one day you'll be able to sell it for a profit. But if Bitcoin vanished tomorrow, what do you have? Who do you call? Where do you go? So there is nothing behind what I respectfully say the nothing. It's exciting. It makes great headlines. Had you bought it 10 years ago? I mean, because look, there's always a flash in the pan, be it Bitcoin or anything else. There's always something that is exciting. There's always something that you can point to, that if I put $1,000 in this, I'd have a 300-foot boat. My life would be very different. But that's not investing. That's speculating and gambling. And one of the things that we don't do is we do not gamble and we do not speculate with our clients' money. We come to the table with an academic plan that is well thought out, that has research that we can point behind it. And so to me, Bitcoin's exciting. It's always going to be on the front pages of headlines, but I just don't think it is a good academic, solid investment for people that want a plan. For people that gamble, hop on a plane, go to Vegas. You not only get to gamble, but you get to have a great meal and maybe a good show at the same time.
Yeah, a couple cocktails for free for giving them some of your money, right?
Absolutely.
Well, sometimes it's easier to justify losing that $500 when you had a couple free cocktails, right?
Or if maybe you didn't remember you lost those $500 if you had a couple cocktails.
All right, Lee, you said before we close today on the podcast, I want to thank you for your time, but you said you had a question for me.
I had a question. Now, again,
Oh God, here we go.
everybody knows you're this really, I mean, it hurts me to say, but you must be a pretty smart guy to sit in the cockpit of a plane with all those buttons and all those crazy things. And you got YouTube and you got all these cool things. But I'm looking at my screen and I've got a beautiful, colorful background. I've got a glowing tan. I've got a blue shirt. But when I'm looking at your screen, for some reason, I see only black and white.
Yeah, I like it that way, Lee. I don't know why. I hate the way I look on a normal screen because I got like a red face, red, I don't know. And I just I switched it to black and white a while ago and I just kind of liked it.
Well, let me tell you, the black and white's not helping your face any.
Yeah,
if that was the plan.
Well,
okay,
you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, okay? And I need all the help I can get. No different with me wearing a hat, trying to cover up however I can. I don't like being in front of the camera like you. I thought you're going to bring up how amazing of an advisor I was because you taught me everything. I thought you're going to go, this guy is one of the most amazing advisors I've ever met because, of course, you mentored me for many years and taught me and I think really brought me along in this business. And I thought you're going to compliment me on that.
Well, you know what? I will use this as an opportunity to tell all the listeners or viewers out there that, all joking aside, I mean, if you're really looking for an advisor, it's John, right? I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong by plugging in John. He's got the great stuff for you. I think he's
just say the pilot's advisor, and that way
the pilot's advisor. He's got a great deal on Bitcoin, and I think he's got, you buy one Bitcoin, you get an ounce of gold at the same time. He's got great things. But all joking aside, now you have really stepped up your game, and I think anybody that knows you, either in the professional world or even outside the professional world, knows that you've got an amazing amount of integrity, amazing amount of intelligence, and you're doing some great things for all of your clients. I'm very, very proud of you and excited to be part of your podcast from time to time.
Well, I didn't know that was going to come out. I didn't pay him any money to say that, but I think that's a great way to end this podcast. I appreciate that, Lee. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your kind words.
It's probably a great way for me to end my career too at the same time, huh? Sending everybody over to you.
Yeah, you can do that. Just send all your clients over to me. They want to find a better way.
Absolutely.
Or at least a prettier face.
Absolutely. Black and white.
Yeah. Well, Lee, as always, appreciate your time. I get a lot of grave reviews when you're on the podcast. So hopefully you'll come back and be on the podcast again in the future. And I'll let you get back out in that sunshine and enjoy the beach here. And enjoy your life as you're, what are you, 87 now?
I'll be 80. It feels like it. I'm going to be 68, but now that I said 68, I'm sure all of your viewers out there are going, man, 68, this guy looks great. And I want to thank everybody because I feel great and I do look pretty good for 68 anyway.
Well, lots of energy, lots of fun. Lee Hyder and Associates. Once again, thank you very much, Lee, for being on the podcast. For all our pilots out there, fly safe. And I want to use Lee's comment before. What is it? Equal takeoffs and landings? Is that what you said?
Just be sure they equal the same. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's good advice. Make sure they equal each other out there on takeoffs and landings. Everybody fly safe. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Lee.
All righty. Stay well.